Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 7th of December 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, I hope you all had a chance to mint your NFTs yesterday, your Daily Gwei Anniversary NFTs. It was such an awesome kind of experience. Got up about an hour before the mint went live, jumped into the Discord channel, and everyone was going kind of crazy about it. Unfortunately, ran into a little bit of technical difficulties, so the link ended up getting shared, I think, about 20 minutes before 2200 UTC instead of half an hour before. But I think most people who were awake and waiting that wanted to mint one were able to mint one. Unfortunately, there were a couple of people who sniped some. I think one person minted 28 of them and then obviously went to resell them on OpenSea. But the good thing is that all secondary sale royalties are also going to be going to core devs, which is really cool. So we donated 19.93 ETH, which was 80% of the proceeds to core devs. It's $87,000 at today's prices. So a really awesome kind of outcome there, of course, and a really awesome just mint process. The Mirror team, the platform that we did the NFT mint on, were really awesome to work with. They kind of fixed those last minute bugs that were causing the technical difficulties there. They were on deck with us. So just absolutely awesome kind of to work with there. So yeah, big thank you to everyone who has supported the NFT mint, who got one. There's now a Discord channel set up for those who own one of the NFTs. It's exclusive to people who own it. Only people who own it can read it and write in it. Obviously, myself is in there, Kid is in there, and a bunch of other people are in there, and it's been cool just to kind of chat to those people there. So yeah, once again, thank you everyone for kind of the support here. This won't be the final mint. I know that there are a few people who said that I should have done kind of this on layer 2. The main reason why I did it on layer 1 is, a big reason is that Kidder had worked with Mirror before, and he'd worked with the Mirror people before, and that they had been kind of helping us with this mint for weeks and kind of getting new contracts spun up so that everything could run smoothly. And we didn't want to kind of say to them at the last minute, hey guys, we're actually going to mint it on layer 2, right? We didn't want to kind of rug pull them. So we just kind of did it on layer 1. But in saying that, I'm going to try to make it so that any of the kind of future NFTs that I do are going to be at layer 2, except one of ones. If I do one of one NFTs, I'm probably still going to do it at layer 1, to be honest. But any of the kind of if I do hundreds of NFTs, another anniversary NFT in the future, at the 2-year mark, or any other ones, I'm gonna try my best to make sure it's done at layer 2. I know the gas fees hurt. I know the gas fees were $80 to mint at 100 Gwei, and I think the gas kind of fees spiked up during the mint because of some other NFT mint. So I get that, of course. I'm not saying I don't get that, but think of it this way: we burnt some ETH, right? We burnt some ETH from these fees too. So, you guys know I always love the burn there. But yeah, just kind of note there as well. But again, thank you everyone. Hope you're enjoying your NFTs. You'll see it cycle through on my NFT display behind me. I've got it up there, and as a lot of you have said, it is genuinely, not just because it's kind of the NFT that represents me in my room, but is genuinely, I think, one of the best NFTs I've ever seen. The art is amazing. Kidder is insanely talented. You would have seen some of his other NFTs before. Some of them are up on the NFT display, actually. Two of these other ones are up there, the 15591 one and the Block Explorer one. Just an insanely talented 3D artist, and, it was just amazing to see how it came out. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next stuff. So I saw this from Gitcoin. You know how I had been saying that Gitcoin, the matching funds were at 2 million? It's actually at over $3 million now. Holy shit. I didn't even realize it'd grown like that. So it was originally, I think 1.5 million, went up to 2 million, then went to 2.5, and now it's over $3 million worth of matching funds as part of this latest kind of matching round. And we're only at kind of day 6 or 7, I think, right now. So there's been over 91,000 contributions of over $1.2 million from 7,000 people so far, which is obviously blowing away all the records in Gitcoin right now. And if you want to create a grant, there's 4 days left to do so as well if you haven't got a grant yet. I've been reminding you pretty much pretty regularly on the refuel to go donate, but this is insane. And I really want to see the breakdown between L1 donations and L2 donations, because obviously Gitcoin is integrated with ZK Sync L2, and they're also integrated with the Polygon POS chain for this round, which is really awesome to see as well. And it makes a lot of sense because due to the way the quadratic matching works, if you're donating kind of 1 or 10 DAI, it can go a lot further than a 100 DAI donation. Even 100 DAI is not economically feasible with the gas fees the way they are. Definitely, not 1 DAI or 2 DAI. So you definitely need kind of those scalability solutions, and it works perfectly for something like Gitcoin. So really awesome to see. And again, thank you everyone that has donated to me so far. I really, really appreciate it. But don't forget to donate to everyone else as well there. So I was thinking today randomly, this just came to me randomly today, and I actually wrote today's newsletter about it, but I sent this tweet out where I said, Ethereum is a digitally native global empire, ruled by no one, owned by everyone. I was thinking about this because I started watching the Foundation series, and there's this kind of like, massive human empire in it, like absolutely huge. And the premise, I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler alert or anything, but it's basically kind of like the premise of the whole kind of story is that this massive empire is kind of predicted to fall and to fail, right? Like it got so big that there's no chance it's going to survive, and like, over the long term, it's going to kind of like fail. But it's not unique to kind of that show or that book. It's a book series, but like there's been empires that have kind of like risen and fell over the kind of like centuries and thousands of years. I mean, one of the most famous examples is the Roman Empire, and I think it tends to happen for a bunch of different reasons. Like obviously these empires are very centralized. They get like really, really big. They fail to scale. And I think we're seeing it play out right now with a few nation states where they just get so big and they become so polarized, and it just starts kind of like bursting at the seams. And then I thought about Ethereum and what makes Ethereum different. There's two main things that make Ethereum different. It's digitally native, right? It doesn't have an actual centralized physical presence. The only physical presence that Ethereum has is on people's machines as full nodes and validators and miners, but they're distributed across the entire planet. It's not in a kind of like a central location, of course. And the second thing is that Ethereum is decentralized, like truly decentralized, which means it's not ruled by anyone. Like not any one person, no one person has unilateral control over the Ethereum network. Not even a small group has any control over the Ethereum network. It's owned by everyone. Like whether you're just an ETH holder, whether you're kind of like a builder, whether you're a core developer, whether you're kind of like on the outsets building infrastructure that feeds into Ethereum, whether you're just a kind of like a creator, an educator, like everyone falls into this in terms of kind of like Ethereum being owned by everyone. It's not a kind of like ownership model where everyone's got like an equal share. Like some voices carry more weight than others. But the point is that there's no kind of like single point of failures here. There's no small group that kind of makes the decisions, and anyone can actually put forward a change to the Ethereum kind of like, I guess you could call it its laws, right? The protocol laws, the code that is embedded into the protocol that the kind of like whole network has to abide by. Anyone can put through a change, can submit an EIP to change one of those rules or to add a new one. Now, that EIP process is well-defined. It's a long process, especially for major changes. You need to get buy-in from like the rest of the community, but it's not like, things can't change, of course. Things can and do change quite regularly, but at least as it has been in the past and as it is right now, for the right reasons or for like the majority kind of rule reasons. Because Ethereum is not a democracy. Ethereum, to get something into the network, requires a supermajority. So it's definitely not a democracy. And there's no kind of like on-chain voting or anything like that. So, that's what kind of like why I thought about it in that kind of like frame of reference there. But I think sometimes people kind of look at the word empire and kind of like have negative connotations behind that, because as I mentioned before, empires, traditionally, the nation-state empires, they're completely centralized, and nation-states always want to centralize power within them. They don't want to kind of like give up power. They always try to consolidate as much power as they can, and you've seen this with pretty much every single nation-state. Like, I can't think of any nation-states that willingly give up their power. If they give up their power or their independence, it's usually because they're being strong-armed into doing it by another more powerful nation-state, right? Whereas they don't like kind of like willingly give up their power. So from that perspective, I get why the term kind of like empire carries that negative connotation, but Ethereum is literally the opposite of that. Ethereum wants to kind of like decentralize and distribute out power over the network to everyone. It doesn't want to consolidate it within itself. It actually wants to get more decentralized over time by design, and it has been, right? Ethereum started off as extremely centralized from from kind of like the early days, because it was just a small group of people building it. There was no real community or anything like that. It was a very small group, and then over time, more and more people kind of like get into Ethereum and come to become Ethereum community members and builders or whatever else, and that actually increases Ethereum's decentralization. Whereas if you go into a nation state and the kind of like more people that are in a nation state, what ends up happening is that it just actually forces the nation state to centralize more, consolidate more power. They have more kind of population, which means they have more GDP. I mean, a good, a first world nation state. I mean, sometimes there are kind of like more populations and a lower GDP, but I'm talking about the nation states like the US and UK and all the really big ones, right? And Canada, like those sorts of things, right? They kind of like consolidate power, consolidate economic kind of like throughput, and their GDP grows with the more population that comes into it. Ethereum is similar in that like its quote unquote GDP or its economic activity will grow with the more people that come into the network, but it will not consolidate any more power. It will actually decentralize that power out because more people will run full nodes, more people will run validators to validate the network, more people will be involved in the governance process, in educating, in building. So from that perspective, you can truly say that Ethereum flips the kind of like empire traditional meaning on its head, and basically makes it so that's a positive thing rather than a negative thing. So yeah, anyway, just a few of my thoughts on that one there. I wrote a little bit more about this in the newsletter today, but that just kind of like came to me when I was watching this show the other day, and then it came back to me today. I was like, wow, okay. Ethereum really is this empire that just keeps growing, but it's the kind of like the most important thing about Ethereum is that, yes, it keeps growing and growing, but it doesn't become more centralized the more it grows, which I think is quite amazing, right? Like, I don't think we've seen that before in any kind of like empire throughout all of history, and we definitely haven't seen kind of like a digitally native empire in all of history, because I mean, you can't really call Facebook or Twitter, I mean, you can call them empires, but they're very different in the sense that, like, it's not really something where you can feel like you're a citizen of Facebook or a citizen of Twitter. Whereas for Ethereum, I feel like I'm a citizen of it because I have my own wallet. There's laws that I abide by, the network laws that I literally can't break because they're kind of like embedded into the network. I have my own digital kind of like native currency, being ETH, which I use to pay my quote unquote taxes, which is the gas fees, right? And then do everything else on there, like DeFi and everything else that you can do on there. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Bunch of other stuff to get through. So another blog post, a new blog post from Vitalik called Endgame. So in this post, Vitalik talks a lot about how he believes that block production, so kind of like when miners or stakers in the future produce blocks, and layer 2s as well, so block production at layer 2, he believes that this is going to become very centralized due to MEV. So then, because of that, how do we kind of like keep the trustlessness and decentralization properties of Ethereum if block production becomes centralized? And in this kind of blog post, he describes the notion of kind of like separating the concerns and making it so that even if block production is completely centralized with one entity, they can't actually do anything to censor users, do anything to break the rules of the network, because block validation is still trustless and highly decentralized, and censorship is still prevented because of that. So I highly recommend giving this blog post a read because it does get quite technical, and explains it a lot better than I can in kind of like on the refuel. And then after you're done reading this post from Vitalik, I suggest going and reading Polynya's post, which is actually a follow-up called Fanciful Endgame, where he basically says that, or Polynya basically says that his blog post is supposed to be less research and more dreams, and the TLDR is that specialized execution layers, specialized settlement layers, and specialized data availability layers cooperating in tandem is 1 million times better than megalomaniac blockchains, aka L1. So sticking on theme for Polynya, right? We all hate monolithic megalomaniac blockchains. We love modular blockchains. You definitely should give this blog post a read after reading Vitalik's, of course, because Vitalik's, as I said, is very kind of like research and technical. Polynya is more about like, I guess, like the higher level kind of like dreamy stuff, like, more dreams as they describe it here. So it's good to kind of like get both ends of the kind of like spectrum here. And it's quite amazing that Polynya was able to put this out so fast after Vitalik published his kind of blog post. It's just incredible the amount of kind of like stuff Polynya puts out. So yeah, definitely go check out both of these blog posts. They'll be linked in the YouTube description below. So 0xMons has teased a kind of like, I guess, alternative to OpenSea called OwenSea today in a kind of, I guess, Twitter thread here. Now, the context around this is that OpenSea basically today confirmed that they're not going to do a token with a new hire that they did. I think they hired Lyft's former CFO as their new CFO, and people are speculating that OpenSea is basically going to IPO. They're not going to be doing a token. So, like, where are the alternatives? Like, can we build an alternative to OpenSea for that reason, but also for a bunch of other reasons? Like, OpenSea's contracts, smart contracts, are still not verified, which means you can't actually see what the code is under the hood. Because they're not going to do a token, it means there's no hope of community ownership, which is kind of like obviously really bad. It's completely centralized, and they have a monopoly right now. We want to decentralize that out. So, 0x Mons is creating OwenSea, which is basically their kind of like take on kind of like a decentralized OpenSea. It's going to have a token called, I think called Pseudo, that's tied to Uniswap, which is a digital marketplace for NFTs, which is actually on layer 2 right now. I believe it's on ZK Sync, I believe last time I saw this. But yeah, it's going to be basically doing everything that OpenSea isn't, trying to decentralize out an NFT marketplace, making it truly community owned, making it kind of like cross-chain and flexible and all this sorts of stuff. So definitely go kind of like read the kind of Twitter thread here from 0x Mons, which explains this a lot better. But I'm all on board with this. Like, I love OpenSea for what it is, but it's missing so much of kind of like the Ethereum spirit at the end of the day. It is not kind of like open source. It is not decentralized. It has no plans of being decentralized, no plans of doing a token. It doesn't really seem like they're playing, too well with the community on that front. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be better about it. They don't innovate that quickly. I feel like they could be innovating much faster, and if they had community ownership, it'd probably be even faster there. So I think that for all the good that OpenSea has done, there is kind of like a lot of stuff that is missing, and I really want to see competition kind of enter this arena. There's been some attempts at competition for OpenSea from other people, but I don't think anything's been kind of like a real serious attempt yet. So I'm curious to see if anyone can actually kind of like come in and start chipping away at OpenSea's kind of marketplace market share, I should say, because I'm pretty sure it's like at least 90% plus at this point, if not more, of the general kind of like NFT marketplace volume, and that's not healthy. It's never healthy for something to have a lot of market share. So anything that we can do to kind of like decentralize that out and create alternatives, the better. And I'll definitely keep kind of like promoting those to you guys and making sure that you're well aware of them. So definitely go give this thread a read. So Parallel has announced today a new kind of like service called Inbox, which is end-to-end encrypted communication between wallets secured by your Ethereum address. It is a service for anyone to send and receive messages to any wallet using their ENS or 0x address. So you can kind of see it here, kind of like you can kind of click launch Inbox and it'll take you to kind of like the interface. I'm not going to do it because it'll kind of like launch into my wallet and everything like that, and kind of like probably set up some prompts. But this is really cool. Wallet-to-wallet communication is definitely something that needs more products built around it, because we have this amazing kind of like thing in an Ethereum wallet that can send messages and can be like your login. Like, we've got the sign-in with Ethereum effort happening and things like that, but we're not really harnessing it like we could. So it's really cool to see that Parallel has come along with this thing called Inbox, which they're promising it to be kind of like wallet-to-wallet communication and end-to-end encrypted. So I could, as Sassel.eth, start a chat with one of you guys through your ENS name, and it can be a secure end-to-end encrypted chat, just like a Signal, or I think, Telegram does this as well, and there's a few other apps out there that'll do end-to-end encrypted chats. And for those of you who don't know what this means, it means that no one can intercept what we're saying to each other over the internet, because the only way to read the message is to decrypt it using the private key that is stored on your device. So, for example, if you're using kind of like MetaMask and you sign to start the chat with someone, then that kind of like private key of your Ethereum wallet is the decryption key for that end-to-end chat there. So that's the way it works. And now, obviously, if your private key became compromised, they would be able to kind of like see your messages. But the whole point of it is it's just kind of like a client-to-client thing where, while the message is traveling over the internet, no one can kind of like see what's in it. They can intercept it, they can kind of like download it, but they can't decrypt it, right? It's all encrypted. So, that's been a kind of like privacy kind of like breakthrough for a while now. And it's been used by these privacy apps for a while, but it's really cool to see it come to kind of like the Ethereum ecosystem, and you be allowed to kind of like use these services without having to sign up with your mobile number or having to sign up with kind of like your email address or anything else, because some of those things are definitely like personal identifiable information, and kind of like you don't want to be giving your phone number everywhere either, and your email address too. So doing it with just kind of like your public ENS, or even a private, you don't have to do it with your public ENS, you can do it with like a private wallet, is really, really cool, because you can just set up an Ethereum wallet anonymously, right? Just right now, you can go into MetaMask, or you can get your ledger out, get your latest one out, create a new wallet, fund it with some ETH. You could go through Tornado Cash from one of your other wallets to fund your new wallet with ETH, and you'd be well on your way to kind of like having a fully private messaging service where it'd be very, very hard to track who you were, which I think is really, really cool. So definitely go check this out if you haven't already. I think there's a thread here with a bit of, a few more explanations about this. It's in beta and only supports MetaMask hot wallets right now. So yeah, if you want to try it out, you do need to have a MetaMask hot wallet there. So Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, tweeted out today that, unveiled today something called kryptology, which is Coinbase's open source cryptography library here. So this is kind of a collection of cryptography tools or cryptography kind of like research and dev stuff that people at Coinbase have been working on for a little while now, including stuff around ZK snarks, stuff like threshold signing, BLS, Halo 2, ring signatures, a lot of this stuff that kind of like you guys have heard of before. But yeah, this is now kind of like available on a GitHub repository. So if you click through here, you're able to see it on GitHub, everything. Yeah, now, obviously, this is not for end users. This is for developers or people interested in cryptography researchers. But it's really cool to see that Coinbase is open sourcing this because they've obviously funded it out of their own pocket as a private kind of company. But now they're kind of open sourcing this for everyone to use, to study, to contribute to, which is the crypto spirit. I mean, I've talked about before how I believe that Coinbase is so very strongly aligned with kind of like the crypto spirit, especially the Ethereum kind of like spirit and Ethereum values and ethos. And this is just another kind of like sign from them that they're continuing to give back to a community that is obviously, or to an ecosystem that is obviously given so much to Coinbase over the years, of course. And it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. People often argue that, or some people often say that, it's kind of like a chicken and egg. If Coinbase didn't exist, would a lot of Americans have gotten their first crypto earlier than they would have? Probably not, right? But at the same time, like without crypto, Coinbase doesn't work because Coinbase is made to kind of like do crypto trading. So yeah, it's cool to see that bit of symbiotic relationship there with where Coinbase still offers an amazing on and off ramp for the people who have access to it. I don't think I have access to selling crypto on Coinbase yet, which is still weird. But anyway, I know in the US people do buy and sell, and they're giving back, in other ways as well. So really, really cool to see this. So Mirror has kind of like updated their website today. So they've improved the Mirror dashboard. So if you're on there as a creator, there's a new way to create across your projects and communities, and you can connect your wallet and see the freshest tools by kind of like going to the website here and doing all that. Now, obviously, Mirror was the platform that we used for the NFT mint here. They're a great little platform. The thing is, I've been meaning to kind of like migrate my newsletter to Mirror, because what Mirror allows you to do is kind of like do Web3 native things, where you'll have seen today in the blog post that I wrote alongside the NFT mint is that I embedded the NFT in the blog post, where you could just click the collect NFT button, sign it with your wallet, sign the transaction with your wallet, and then you were kind of like able to purchase that NFT that way. But there's also other things you can do where you can create like an NFT out of the blog post itself, and people can actually own the blog post on the platform. Or you can just like attach an NFT to a post and say, hey, if you want to support me, mint this NFT as part of the post directly inside it. There's no need to go to a third-party website or anything like that. You've got it directly inside it. So Mirror is trying to build kind of like Web3 native tools. They have really cool features like splits, which is what we used for the NFT mint as well, where we did a trustless split where 80% of the proceeds went to me, 20% went to Kidder, and that 80% that went to me, I was able to then withdraw it from the split, send it to the Open Grants core devs kind of like page there, and everything was kind of like visible on chain, which was really cool as well. So yeah, Mirror is just awesome. I love kind of like what they're doing. I love their Web3 first and native approach. Definitely what we want to see more of. And as I said, like I've been trying to kind of like find the right way to kind of like migrate the Daily Gwei newsletter to Mirror, but at the same time, I don't think they support kind of like email kind of like subscriptions just yet. I know they have like ways around that. You can use third-party tools, but I would love to have like an all-in-one experience. So when they do that, I may migrate across, because it would be really awesome to kind of like create NFTs out of some of the blog posts that I've done, or at least some of the ones like the EIP 1559 blog post that I did, or the newsletter I did for the 300th edition of the newsletter, create an NFT out of that, sell it, and then donate the proceeds to core devs again, right? I just want to do more of that sort of stuff there. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, cool to see a new improved kind of like dashboard from Mirror here. All right, so final thing to talk about was some Uniswap V3 stats. So over the last 2 weeks, Uniswap V3 saw a new 24-hour volume record of $4.8 billion, set a weekly volume all-time high of $21 billion, and generated more ETH.USD volume than Coinbase. Crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. And this is just V3. V2 is still very popular because V2 has more of a kind of like passive liquidity approach, and there's still a lot of liquidity in there, so a lot of trades get routed kind of like through that. But this is absolutely insane. I mean, as you guys know, I've talked about how Uniswap still has like a large chunk, 75-80% of the DEX market, and that has only been growing over time. Now, the reason why I wanted to kind of like talk about this is because of what I was talking about earlier about kind of like how OpenSea has a near monopoly on the NFT marketplace kind of like stuff going on, and Uniswap has a near monopoly on DEX trading volumes. Maybe not as bad as kind of like OpenSea has on NFTs, but you know, they still have like a lot of trading volume that routes through it. Now, there's been arguments before about like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? When the Sushi Swap stuff happened and the fork happened, everyone was like, this is good. Uniswap finally has some competition on the AMM front. And fair enough, like I actually agree with that. I do believe that if it was just Uniswap and no other AMMs existed, then it wouldn't be ideal. But it's very hard to break a network effect for a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, especially when they're innovating more than any other kind of like AMM ecosystem, I think, right now, except maybe SushiSwap if they deliver on their Trident promises and stuff like that. But I'm sure Uniswap is working on, you know, their V4 already. And, you know, Uniswap is fully decentralized. It has a governance process in kind of like play. It's fully open source. It's an Ethereum community darling. It has an insane brand. Like, everyone knows Uniswap, right? Like, it has an insane amount of kind of a kind of network effect because of that. It still does the amount of volume that it does because I think a lot of people just go straight to the Uniswap interface, or they don't go through decentralized exchange aggregators because a lot of retail users are happy just to go directly to Uniswap, especially if they're speculating on you know, random kind of like dog tokens, for example. They go straight to Uniswap there. And also, because of these network effects, there's a lot of arbitrage bots that are set up on Uniswap between the pools. There's a lot of kind of like MEV stuff happening as well. So breaking Uniswap's network effect is going to be incredibly hard, but I really do hope that it kind of like Uniswap doesn't get to like all of the DEX volume, like 90 to 100% of the DEX volume. Not because Uniswap is a bad product, but because we do need competition here. We do need more innovation here. We don't want kind of like innovation and competition to slow down in this space because the AMM space is still kind of like very wide. It still can be improved upon in a lot of ways. I know Uniswap's doing a lot there, but I would love to see other teams kind of like enter the fray and do a lot there as well. So, and this goes for like anything within crypto or anything within any industry. Just like monopolies do not breed kind of like good outcomes in my mind. It means less innovation. It means like kind of like there's less competition. Which means kind of like products can actually, or at least teams and products can do bad things, and there's kind of like no repercussions because it's kind of like, well, where are you going to go? Like, this is actually what happened in the US. I don't know how much it happens these days, but for a long time, a lot of states in the US, or at least towns in the US, only had one internet service provider, and you couldn't switch, literally. So what ended up happening was that this internet service provider was just bad. They didn't care, right? Because where else are they going to go? Like, where are the customers going to go? If you haven't got access to an alternative, you're stuck with this one provider. They can do whatever they want, and they suffer no recourse because they know you want the internet. Like, if you can't go anywhere else, then you basically either have no internet or you move states or something like that, or move cities. And most people aren't going to do that. So that's what ends up happening. It's like, okay, you know, this product or service does something bad, provides bad service, and you just don't have an alternative. Never a good outcome. So yeah, but in saying that, Uniswap's growth is just incredible. Like, I remember tweeting my predictions for 2020 at the beginning of last year, where I said that I thought that Uniswap would do 100, I think it was 100 million maybe, or $1 billion of 24-hour volume or something like that by the end of the year. That ended up coming true because of DeFi summer. But at the time, I believe Uniswap was only doing something like $10 million of 24-hour volume. Now it does many, many billions at layer 1. Hundreds of millions at layer 2, and that's only going to keep growing over time. So yeah, not a knock on Uniswap here. Their growth has been phenomenal, but I would really hope that it doesn't just turn into like Uniswap and that's it. I really do want to see other AMMs kind of like competing there as well. And on that note, I'm going to end it there for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.